So now let's make some components. Let's look at the static version in a browser, see what we have. Who sees a component here, or a potential component? What would you like to make a component for? Sorry? The add thing, the button? Mm-hmm. Yep, we can make a component for the add thing button. What else? What could we make a component out of? A header? We can make a header with a thing list and so many things in it, perhaps? Sounds good to me. What do you think, Pari? You see anything begging to be turned into a component? Not working? Are your eyeballs working? Yeah, just look at the screen and see. We've already said we can make a header out of thing list and so many things, and we can make a component out of the add thing button. What else could be turned into a component? Yes, I am. That's two more components. So the list itself, the whole list, basically everything in white, and then each thing in the list could be another component. That's pretty good. I guess the only thing left on the page is the sign out button. Cool. Well, let's make the easiest one first, the header. All right. So in app.js, we don't really need any of this business. Let's get rid of everything except the outer div. It's very common to give a class of name of component, capitalization and all, on the outer element inside JSX. So let's make a new component called header. Is header going to need any state? I don't think so. I think we can hard code thing list and so many things in there. So we'll make a functional stateless component inside our source folder. Capital H header.js. I have a pretty good idea. I'm going to have some CSS in this thing too. So I'm going to go ahead and make header.css as well. And anytime we make a component, we're going to need to import React. Don't forget, if you made CSS second, go ahead and switch back to your JS file before you start writing JavaScript. So import capital R React from the string lowercase react. Now sometimes we say React, comma, curly brace, component. What does that do for us? You learned about named exports yesterday. That's a named export and a named import now. If we wanted to call it something other than component, we could use as here, say as comp or something, but we're not going to do that. And you don't need to type this right now because we're not going to use the component import at all. But importing components separately means that we could say class header extends component. If we didn't import component directly, but imported React, we would say React.component because component isn't defined by itself. But it is there as a property of React, so we don't really need to import it separately, but it's kind of nice too. But we're making a functional stateless component, so we don't need a class at all, do we? Let's just make a function. Let's make an arrow function. Const header equals this arrow function. And since it is a functional stateless component, we don't need to make a separate render function. The whole thing is our render function effectively. So we will just return some JSX. It's going to be multiple lines, so I'll put some parentheses there. At the bottom of the file, my component is going to be my default export. So export default header. And before I forget, I'm going to go ahead and import header CSS. By the way, you notice when I type // inside one of these imports, I do get an auto-completion of the files that are in that directory. That's because of a Visual Studio Code extension that I've installed, which is listed on the tools page on the website. Header CSS is what I want to import there. All right, so how about an H1 and an H2? Now, we can't just put an H1 and an H2 side by side, right? Because you have to return one element. And it can have as many children as you want, but there can't be two siblings at the top level. So I'm going to make an HTML5 header element. And inside that, I'm going to put an H1 ThingList and an H2 so many things. If you want a tagline that isn't quite so dumb, feel free. Okay, it's being exported. So I can flip back to app.js. I still have header up on the right here. So in order for the header to use it, I'm going to have to import it. I'll go ahead and put an empty line here. I like to put an empty line between the things that are imported from npm packages and things that are imported from other files in our project. And over here, we're going to import header from Header Jas. And then we need to use it. So inside this div with a class name of app, let's go ahead and put our component and some JSX. Capital H header, self-closing tag. Let's look over here at our React page. Looks like bad things are happening. I didn't save this. I should get rid of that error. All right, ThingList, so many things. It's not pretty, but it's there. So our new component is rendering.